Hello and welcome to the Proclamation Podcast. Today we got the chance to sit down with one of Roseville's leaders, Bruce Houdesheldt. Bruce is a mover and changer in the way that City Council approaches some of the issues in our city, and he's running again for re-election this November 3rd. Please go out and vote for your local, for your state, and for your national candidates. And please enjoy this episode where we got to sit down with Bruce and hear a little bit more about his life and about what he's doing to change the face of Roseville.
Hey, Luke, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
How's Katie feeling?
Oh, she's doing awesome.
Right? How many weeks? How many days?
She is at 36 weeks.
All right.
So we're 1 month away from baby Molly coming in. She's going to wreck everything and make everything better.
All right. Of course.
Yeah. Did I tell you we're naming her Molly?
I did not know.
Molly Ray.
Is that after Molly Hatchet or the
there's a lot. There's a lot of Mollys. Yeah. Mostly after the Molly who prints all of our stuff at Ocean Shore Printing.
Oh, okay.
On Pacific Street in Rockland.
Well, that's appropriately
She's a really
named.
cool lady.
Yeah,
we like her.
Named.
Yeah.
And what's your roasters? See, I'm interviewing you.
Oh yeah, okay. No, I love that.
So tell me about the roaster. Tell me the origin and the name of the roaster.
So our roasting operation is called Valiant Coffee Roasters. Mm-hmm. I started that before Fourscore, and I am part owner of that. And I do that about 1 day a week now. But we have a team of people who are over there roasting, and my partner oversees all that.
Yeah, so my only complaint is I came in the other day and there was no Vanguard.
No beans. Yeah. We're gonna fix that because we're gonna get bigger retail space. Did you see that shelf we put in?
Yes, I thought that was for Katie's flowers.
I mean, she can put flowers on there if she wants.
Okay.
Yeah. We can't let her take over the whole place.
All right. But I thought it would be a nice, nice soft.
She did good on this room, right?
Ecosystem.
This room back here.
Yeah.
Yeah. She designing all that.
That's awesome.
She always makes things look better than me.
So how long have you been in Roseville?
I've been in Roseville. Well, I was born in Roseville 33 years ago.
Really?
But in and out a couple of times. Lived in Oregon for a couple of years. Lived in San Jose for a year.
I didn't know. Where in Oregon?
In Klamath Falls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Down Snowflake
south.
Parade. That's what Shelly tells me. She marched in the Snowflake Parade.
It's a little wild there, but I loved it. My dad and I went fishing every weekend. Oh. So fishing's so peaceful.
It is.
It's very peaceful.
Shelly and I went to Union Creek in 2019. It's near Crater Lake. And then
I love Crater Lake.
We got there by coming because I had a meeting in Goose Lake, which is on the Oregon. And because I manage an agricultural water quality coalition. But we got there by going through Klamath Falls and then dropping into Upper Klamath Lake. Getting the name wrong, but it's the first time I'd been there. It was just, the east side of Crater Lake. Just freaking gorgeous.
It's amazing.
It was, I think it was mid-July. It was just beautiful.
Did you go down to the water at Klamath Lake?
No.
It's full of algae. It's very green. It's kind of wild. And there's some people there who harvest the algae as well.
Oh, really?
It's just really fascinating stuff like that.
Dry it out and put it in.
But Crater Lake's amazing because it's so deep and it's just gorgeous. Country. Pristine.
So in and out of Roseville.
But Roseville's my home.
Yeah. No.
I always tell people that. Born and bred.
We met at the first time we met at
Cheese Louise?
Yeah. It was Java Jungle before that.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know what
it was. A jungle. It was something.
It's been a tough quarter. I think they're going to do a dinner club there.
Yeah.
Proposed to do a dinner club at some point in time, and then
there's a lot of good things happening on Vernon Street.
Post office. It was a challenge, much like up the street here at the Belvedere. Folks hold on to the historical aspect. That's why I love this part of town.
Yeah.
It's historical.
And you need to do that sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
But when we were, and the post office has since moved, but there was a lot of angst about the post office, and there's going to be a 5-story boutique hotel there,
which will be amazing.
Yeah, all that is great. You get that urban, that urban vibe. I mean, what I love about here is my sister-in-law lives in North Portland, and there's a place called Kenton. It's like 2 blocks from her house. You just walk there, you sit down, you have a food truck is now taking the wheels off, and it's now a brick and mortar, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of that moving back from the food truck to brick and mortar.
absolutely.
Chando's, I think, did that. There's a place in Rockland I can't think of. But no, that's why I love this. You keep that balance, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Is
yeah, of
that
course,
kind of the overall direction that you think the city is taking, is adopting more of that urban vibe?
I think so. I think the community, the neighborhoods over here, like Sierra Vista, Roseville Heights, um, starts with a C. I can't think of the name of it, but right next to Roseville Heights. I think those are communities that are going to attract
Yeah.
young, young upwardly mobile families. They're going to be attractive because they're not the traditional Mediterranean style new homes, and they have bigger yards, or they have, like this building, they have features that are unique and nooks and crannies that, frankly, I think people are gonna gravitate to, and
People
that's
love that stuff.
yep.
Yeah.
No, people. I mean, and
I mean, I don't know about you, but I meet people almost every week who are moving here from the Bay Area or
yeah,
even out of state, some.
right.
One of the guys behind the camera just moved here from Southern California. And so I think that Roseville has this amazing opportunity to present itself to this whole new demographic of people who are coming in.
Yeah, and we did a strategic planning process in 2019, and one of the things we recognized in there is that we need to reinvest in areas that were, there's a map in the city manager's office from 1998, right? There was nothing.
Yeah,
There was no East Roseville Parkway.
totally.
There was
When we
no
moved here in
no
98,
Galleria.
all that stuff out, Baseline Road,
Yep.
Riego, that was all just fields.
But so Roseville grew up around Johnson Ranch, grew up around Douglas Boulevard, Kirby and those neighborhoods, Crestmont, and we need to make sure that the infrastructure is there so that when people go, okay, I don't need all that house because it's just me and my spouse, that they have options, right?
Downsizing options, yeah.
Whether it's empty nesters looking for smaller or new families coming here that just don't want to be just don't want to be in a big old 3,000 square foot house. They want something
A
that,
lot of people coming from the city aren't used to that big of a house.
yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
So we've invested, part of our strategic plan was to invest in the infrastructure because that's critical,
Yeah.
right?
And you were on the planning commission before you were on city
I
council, right?
was 6 years on the planning
Yeah.
commission, and then 2 years prior to that on the public utilities commission because I work for Northern California Water Association, and they thought maybe I knew something about water.
Well, it's funny that you say that because when I met you and you told me about your role in water, I think there's like this thing subconsciously where like you trust somebody who works with water because
Right.
you turn on the faucet. I mean,
It's there.
in America, as a general rule, you turn on the faucet and you know that you can just drink that water. You
Yep.
could trust where it's coming from and the process. And
Absolutely.
so I've always associated you with the word trust
Well,
because
yeah.
I just see what you're doing for the city. I see what you've done, and then I've gotten to know you personally and seen your heart for like people and conversation and music and all these things that you value, and just makes me trust you more. And that's why I wanted to have you on today, is
Oh,
to
thanks.
just highlight who you are.
No, and it's a mutual admiration society because your
Yeah.
innovation, your commitment, you're paying it forward without expectations. I mean, that's one of the unknown things about this city. There are people in this city who just give. They don't want a headline. They don't want recognition. They give unconditionally,
It's
and it's
amazing.
it's terrific. I mean, I can't name him, but he's out there and
Yeah.
he knows who he is, and that's the ethic they have, and that's what makes this a community, not a city, right? I mean, someday, 20 years from now, well, I hope it's still there. I hope that the fabric of the nonprofits, of businesses like yourself who recognize, what, this is not in my own self-interest. This is
Mhm.
because I'm part of the community. I hope that fabric continues to exist because it will ensure that we're watching out for each other. I mean, I think in this the year we've been going through in 2020,
Pretty
um,
amazing.
I've seen these incredible acts of personal responsibility and kindness that really are just uplifting, right? We not, well, I'll get political. I mean, if you entrust your citizenry and your community to do the right thing and you give them guidance, like in my world, right? I manage an agricultural water quality coalition. The regulator, the Regional Water Quality Control Board, recognizes that if they empower the farmers to meet the goal, they can figure out how to meet the goal.
The farmers will do it.
Right. Farmers will do it because they have a vested interest in the soil. They have a vested interest, in the water. They have a vested interest, frankly. Many of them are fishers, fish and hunt. So they have a vested interest in the ecosystem. It's not a hard line between, the urban and the rural. A lot of those things are similar. So if you trust people, if you say, hey, here's your job, here's your role and your responsibility, let's go meet it, right?
Yeah.
Together as a community. And you give them the personal responsibility, they'll embrace it. Right?
Yeah.
They don't, there's some guidelines, sure, but they don't need to be told what to do. And
I think that our local governments and our individuals having their own personal responsibility is really what leads to dramatic change.
Mm-hmm.
And when we try to make change from the top down, we end up dissipating the foundation. Whereas if we start with individuals as the foundation and build up their personal responsibility, we could talk about COVID, right? Their personal response to COVID. Everyone has to make a decision to wear this. Right. Everyone has to make a decision to be 6 feet apart during a podcast. It's not.
And we are 6 feet apart.
Yeah, we podcast. Are. We measured. We are each called to make our own decisions that are going to protect the people around us. We're each called to make decisions that are going to make our businesses thrive or fail. Uh-huh. And what I love about Roseville is I think that you guys as a city council have sort of created an environment where people can make those decisions better. And you're empowering the individual businesses and individual people to do that.
Our city, and I don't think this is widely known until you ask the city to do something and then the city responds, they're a business and they operate like a business. I mean, whether it's somebody who's concerned about a homeless camp or somebody who's, and I've had these, people reach out to me. Oh, I didn't like the way they landscape the trees in front of my house, right? They're in the, right away. They're surprised, I'm not, that the city is responsive to them. You talk about COVID. In 2 weeks, our IT department, which is one of the, I'll say it, is the best unknown department in the city, right? They got mobilized and got out to our employees the ability to work from home in 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
It was a Herculean effort.
Yeah, it's incredible.
They're up for the task. And, this was when everybody else was still trying to figure out, distance learning. But we did that. Our IT department is, just top notch. So, in our city, we, the essential services of home building continued on. And we went offline to do e-permitting and everything else like that, which we had already begun before that. But it's the innovation and
it's
resiliency.
Sort of been a catalyst to do some things that maybe people weren't thinking was possible. Now they have to do it.
The old adage, lemons to lemonade, right?
Yeah,
no,
absolutely,
very much so, right? So it's been a pleasure since February of 2019 to sit on the city council and see the whole staff. I mean, I saw it when I was on the planning commission. I saw the dedication, and we have, the city council gets, the 5 members of the city council get all the, we're up on the dais, but we have boards and commissions, that we appoint, and to see the quality of people coming in and asking to serve, to see the diversity of thought, to see the diversity of, backgrounds of people that, apply for those boards and commissions is so uplifting, right? It just, we have hard decisions. We have one spot and we have 3 people you can choose from. And you have to say, and I always do this.
Got to choose someone.
Yeah, I always say this. I said, you know what? I just want to thank you for applying, right? Because
absolutely
we get a video of their interview, but I always call them because much like we're having this sort of interactive conversation. You'll never know what comes up. You know, in that moment of a structured interview where
Mm.
every candidate's asked the same questions, you don't really see the conviction. You don't see the personality. You don't. Yeah. So it's a pleasure over the last since February 2019, and I expect on November 3rd for
You're
another.
up for
I
reelection.
am up for
Yeah.
reelection.
How's campaigning? I mean, what's that like?
I love it. In the social media world, there are very few shades of gray.
Mm.
It's becoming increasingly polarized. But when you get out and you walk the streets and you talk to the people and you ask them, and we're just leaving literature, but we come across people. I mean, this great story. Early in the campaign, because my ethic is to reach out to people, constituent
Yeah.
services, right? I just feel like you understand the community better. So I did this thing on the first really triple digit day that we had called Chair and Chat, right? So I go up to Wenzel Brown Elementary, find the shadiest spot I can find, pull out my chair, sit down. But before I did, I see this group of young men working on the playground at Wenzel Brown. And I inquire, and what they're doing is they were creating an autistic spectrum trail.
Mm.
And this is a long story, and I'm famous for long stories.
We
So
got
I'll
a
try
long
to
time.
I'll cut it short. But maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, out walking precincts on a Sunday, woman happens to be going to her mailbox. It happened to be the teacher that they were building this autistic spectrum trail. She goes, "Yeah,
Wow.
no, I know you. You know Riley, right? And So it's those moments of just absolutely coincident and kismet where, had I been delayed
And it
one
reminds you
minute,
that
right?
even though we're a little bit of a bigger town, we're still a small town feel in a lot of
We
ways.
absolutely are.
Yeah.
Absolutely are. And, I mean, that's the fabric that connects us, right? It's whether it's the teachers or their students or, building a trail for their Eagle Scout project. I mean, that's the wonderful aspect. And it's, so whenever the deadlines and deliverables for the campaign and the noise back and forth gets to be a little much, I just go out and walk
Just
and
go out
meet
and
the
walk.
people, right?
Yeah.
Same day, met a woman walking her dog. I introduced myself. I'm Bruce. I'm on the city council. I'm up. Yeah, no, I called you because you didn't have your website on your candidate statement. Yeah, thanks. I've
Yeah.
voted for you. Thank
Getting
you
some
for.
help from the
Yeah,
community.
she was ready to vote for somebody else. It's those little things that you as a business person, because doing a campaign is like a business. It's like a
Yeah.
marketing plan. But I hadn't put my website in my candidate statement. I'd put my email address, and that's how she got in touch with me. But she was ready to vote for somebody else until she got my website
Mm.
and saw that I was endorsed by the firefighters and the Police Officers Association and the local chamber and the Metro Chamber, both the local and the Metro Chamber the second time, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's important, right? It's important you understand the job that you're signing up for. It's really important, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, anybody can have talking points, and you have to put in the work after I was on Zoom is incredibly convenient, and it has its drawbacks, but so Placer County Transportation Planning Agency, which I'm the alternate, outgoing Mayor John Allard had an important conversation this morning about widening Baseline Riego Road. So they're going to widen it to 6 lanes, and
That's part
they're
of the Keep Placer Moving project.
absolutely.
Okay.
You did your homework.
I remember from the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or from,
So
I guess that was actually all the way back to Roseville 2018.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll go to the goal is that it goes to 6 lanes. It crosses going into Sutter County, it crosses the Union Pacific tracks there, but it could come as early as 2023. It could come as late as whoever
Yeah.
whenever the
I was really
environmental doctor.
surprised how quickly they turned around that project at the 65 interchange.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was going to be delayed just because that's our expectation, I think, of government. And maybe you could speak to that as like, as a citizen who isn't involved in government. We just I think we kind of expect things to go wrong, and we forget that people are working really hard in the background to make sure that they go right.
And the playing field changes.
Mhm.
So the funding formula that existed for projects like Highway 65 has changed over the years. Pre-COVID, the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency was going to go out with a half-cent sales tax. It would cost, about $65 a household. But that would have taken what's happened on 65 and expanded it a little bit further. The other night, October 21st, at our city council meeting, we got a lot of stuff. I mean, when I say we're a business, if you look at the
You got to
consent
stack.
calendar, right? But a lot of things that are like, we'd like, because the budget is, former Mayor Susan Rohan told me the budget's the Constitution. If it's not in the budget, we can't do it, right?
Yeah.
You can have the greatest idea in the world, but you got to get it into the budget so that, the staff can say, we're covering this
We get
under
paid for
general
it.
fund, or we're getting a grant from the federal government for this. And there's a funding source. But the other night we approved paying for the Placer Parkway. If you go up Highway 65 right now, you see a half complete interchange at, I think it's Wildcat, that goes off into Rockland.
Yeah, totally.
So we approve funding, and it'll be a year or two away, but they'll finish that Cloverleaf and bring that down to Foothills. So that'll relieve some congestion on Highway
Absolutely.
65 that really kind of starts to back up around Blue Oak.
Mm-hmm.
But all those things sit in the agenda, the consent agenda.
They're in the stack.
Right. And, we can make really long meetings if we started pulling things out and highlighting them. But that's the business that the city of Roseville's in. We have a budget. If it's in the budget, or, there's a funding source, we approve it. So,
Yeah.
Anyway.
What's the thing that surprised you the most about being on city council?
That's a great question. I'm not going to say it's a surprise, but this is, again, back to, you need to know what you're signing up for, right? So I knew the planning commission staff, or the planning department staff, pretty well. But
Probably felt good. Some people in the office already.
Right, yeah. But getting to know the city manager staff was, was eye opening. And there's 5 members of the council, and we all have variations on it. We're not all like-minded. And
which is probably good for our city.
Just like on the planning commission, we
got
came with
ideas.
We had an engineer, we had a community organizer. We all come with a different perspective on the project, and that mosaic working together results in a quality decision. Ensures that all the questions are asked. The staff report's incredibly, comprehensive. But if you go out, well, in the space we're in, used to be occupied by Christine Doner.
Mm-hmm.
And and when Junction Crossing was on the table, that would have been 2017, I think. No, maybe it was 2018. She didn't know that the staff report was widely available. Well, and that's, talk about surprising.
Yeah.
I think that's the surprising aspect, is how much we think we're communicating in state-of-the-art ways with the public, but we're communicating with a pretty narrow band. I mean, we have Eli Wilbur, and
he's amazing.
What's happening in Roseville, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever his phrase is.
He did some really awesome stuff recently, highlighting some of the different employees in the city. Like I remember seeing some of the public works employees and just them telling their story. And that was on Instagram, and I was just blown away by it.
Yeah. So, it's surprising when people come up and ask questions. It's surprising and not surprising.
Sure.
Right? Because in my own job, these things are complex, complicated, not sexy or anything like that. So,
they're very important.
They're critically important, right?
They're like the spleen of the body.
There you go.
You better have it.
Without it, yeah, not so good. But, so that's, and that's what I'm trying to reinforce, is we have to look at different ways to communicate. with the
Sure.
public, right? We have to, because my degree was in public relations and marketing, and multiple exposures create awareness, additional exposures create understanding. So that's critically important, and we need to continue to work on it. I think that personally, I think Roseville needs its own radio station, right? So everybody
Roseville
tunes in.
Radio.
Podcasts are kind of like that, but
Yeah.
that field's getting cluttered too, right? So
Absolutely.
much social media, it's hard to, am I on Slack? What am I on, right? Not on that one.
Too many platforms.
There are a lot of platforms, and frankly, so cutting through all of that to deliver your messages.
Yeah.
And we have state of the art, we have, best in class folks at the city who are charged with doing that, putting out newsletters.
Yeah.
As I was walking here, somebody asked me about the charter amendments, and I just quickly said the city has put out a plain language reference guide about the 9 charter measures that are on the ballot. Because if you read those, your brain explodes.
Right.
It's
the actual
mind
language.
numbing.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? So that one, just clean up, right? That's non-substantive. There's more on there that are substantive, and people should be just go to the city of Roseville, roseville.ca.us, or go just type in their search engine Roseville Charter Amendment Reference Guide, and they'll find a plain English infographic and talking about the 9. So that's that's the surprising thing.
People don't know what's going on.
People have
and the resources are available.
Yep.
But it's just making the city look sexier to people so that they're attracted to check out what's going on.
Yeah, we got to use the latest and greatest, audience response tools and things like that, flash vote and other things like that. So I think I'll probably think of something else.
That's one thing I appreciate about you, and if people aren't following you, they should follow you on Instagram. Oh, okay. Because you're posting all the time.
I'm on Instagram?
Yeah, you're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, okay.
Yeah. I know. Tell them where to find you.
www.justbruce.net.
Justbruce.net.
Yeah,
If you can't remember justbruce.net.
Yeah, you can't. I mean,
you're probably not voting anyways.
The chairman of the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency apologized a couple of times for mispronouncing my name, and I wanted to jump in there, but my mic was dead.
Houdesheldt?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
We must be related. So, it's but I'm trying to think of what is truly surprising, right? Well, I'll tell you what's surprising. Okay, frankly, and disappointing, and it goes along with the same theme. So, as you know, we're in districts for the first time.
Yeah.
There's a Southern California attorney who is going to school boards, water districts, city councils, and making a claim that he'll file litigation. So we went through the process, and it was contentious, right? But we followed the California Voting Rights Act, and we had a demographer. The night we approved the map, right after that, we had a huge budget item. City Hall cleared out. Nobody stayed for something that is vital and important to all of Roseville. I can't remember the item right now, but it just struck me that we had this item right after.
People only cared about A, but they didn't know that there was B, C, D, and all the way down to Z.
They care about Biden and Trump, but does anybody really kind of drill down and say, what's the economic policy of either of them? So, that was, I'll be frank, that was disheartening and disappointing. And
it's naive because you and I really cannot do anything to affect Washington, D.C.
No.
On our own, but each person's vote in Roseville really counts.
It does. Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House, said all politics are local, and they are. They are. We're not making public policy. A break?
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. What did your dad do?
He was a coach and a teacher, and he still is a teacher. What did
he coach?
Taught at Wood Creek for 9 years.
Okay.
And he was a wrestling coach.
Oh man, that's
yeah.
It's like being a water polo player. They're smarter
He
than
was a water polo player too.
my father-in-law is
Yeah.
about 5'7", 5'8", had to,
You got to be an animal.
had to stand on his tippy toes to become an Oregon State trooper. But, he was a water polo player in high school, in Orange County. And yeah, I mean, those guys, the training that you go through, the stamina, the mental and physical stamina that you have to have
Yeah.
to be that's awesome. It's interesting too in Roseville. And, I don't know if you know a guy named Jeff Goolsby. I'm going to plug Jeff because, he's a realtor, but he's a realtor with heart. So he goes through our neighborhood in Highland Reserve, and there must be 1,800, 2,000 houses. We'll put a flag there for the 4th of July. He'll put pumpkins there now. He did before we went virtual. He would do things called pumpkin patch in the park, right at Buljan Park. And I was there one day, and I met his dad, and his dad worked for Roseville Electric. So
there's a legacy.
Yeah. So there are these second generation families that are really starting to, grow up around here and go, I'm not leaving Roseville.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, find a different part of Roseville to live in. I mean, I grew up back east. I grew up in College Park, Maryland. Baltimore was like that, New York, Philadelphia, right, where generations would all grow up in the same area.
Yeah.
It's great to see, that kind of second generation. Krista Bernasconi, born and raised here.
Amazing.
Pauline Ricucci, right across the street. Her father-in-law had a shoe repair shop.
What?
Not her father-in-law. So
on Lincoln?
Her husband, yeah, right across the street.
Oh my gosh.
Richard, her husband, who was a city council member and a mayor, told me his dad had a shoe repair shop right across the street here. I don't know what the address is, but we were sitting here one day and he goes, my dad.
We've been talking about that a lot, and we were talking about it in the last podcast of leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
And I think that when you stay somewhere long enough, the roots that you develop and the legacy that gets carried on after you're gone, or when you pass it on to somebody else, is huge. And I see that happening in Roseville all the time.
Well, and we have so many folks that we were talking earlier, about Johnson Ranch, which was probably the first master planned community in Roseville, probably, and Roseville has a legacy of master planned communities. So you integrate parks. We have a lot of parks per, like 9 acres of parks per 1,000. You have these curvilinear streets. You have retail integrated into that. So it really feels like more like a neighborhood.
It's intentional.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great word. It's intentional.
To build a beautiful city.
But I remember when I got here in 1991, I was working for the Building Industry Association. The general plan was being adopted. I think the city was probably 30,000, 40,000 people. There are people like, Gina Garbolino, who went on to become the mayor, and Earl Rush and others who really were mindful and intentional in planning the city. And now what we're doing is really just filling in their,
you're carrying on
their mosaic,
their
right?
plan.
What is that? Where people do, they take little pieces of things and put it into a table and a mosaic. So we're really just filling in the mosaic of the vision that they left us, and we're caretakers of that. And every once in a while we have to, say,
is that hard though? Is it hard to balance, carrying on somebody else's thing when you have? I know you and other people have new ideas, and new things. How do you balance that?
You
want to leave your mark,
right?
Yeah,
but you recognize the good, and the fact that, I may have said this earlier, but there's a picture in the city manager's office of the city in 1998, 22 years ago. You were 11, I think, if my math's right.
Yep.
You were 11. Yep. I asked Ruth if she was where she was in 1998.
She was 1.
She was 1. Okay, right. But the city, it pivots, it grows. I mean, the city has had a mindful and intentional economic development strategy that was first kind of all around hospitals and healthcare. And, and now we're moving towards, education with Sac State, with maybe a university downtown at some point in time. But we also might swing back now with the focus
Look
on
at what
healthcare.
Kaiser's done with that new building,
right?
And they're always
and
expanding.
Sutter, right?
Sutter, yeah. I was born in the old Sutter Hospital, which is now U-Haul storage.
Well, you talk about visionaries. So when they sold that hospital, they set up a fund, and it's called the Citizens Benefit Fund. And so the interest off of that sale every year, our grants advisory committee decides, takes applications,
how to use it,
and provides funding for nonprofits that are out there. So, it's really, it's that kind of vision that we're caretakers of. And so there is time in which you kind of go, it feels like a 1990s thing or an 80s thing.
sure,
And we just have to modernize it,
yeah,
right? And do it in a way. One of the a good example is right around the corner with Junction Crossing and this whole area here, which was viewed as an arts and entertainment. It's going to take you some time.
absolutely, yeah.
Parking is always a challenge. You and I've talked about that over the years, but it's on the books, and these things don't materialize because they're on the books. They materialize because of capitalism, right? Because of investment, and folks often, frankly, kind of demonize it. But without the investment, without that as a catalyst for things, we'd still be stuck with.
Well, and that money can be behind a social project. That money can be behind a physical project. That money can be behind education. It can be behind all sorts of things. But without getting people who have the resources on board, that's never going to happen.
Correct. Absolutely. So, you have to recognize and appreciate, and, sometimes in the dialogue, folks they're holding on so tightly
Sure.
to what it was.
Hey,
without
that
Spotify,
begs the question.
I wouldn't be able to remember half of the songs in the world,
Right?
I hold up my Spotify.
I know you're a big music lover.
My
We gotta
Shazam.
talk about
I'm
that.
sorry. Starts with an S. I hold up my Shazam and I go, oh, yeah. Got it.
Did you ever use the Songs app?
No.
It was my favorite.
Really?
It was like many apps. It was kind of.
I was using MySpace,
but I really loved it.
MySpace was
MySpace. That was the thing.
I was old school, right?
I thought it was going to come back, but I think it's dead now.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I think it is. And if you take MySpace and Facebook and you turn the words around, you have anyway, my book or
Bookface.
Yeah, something like that. I think that's a Gorillaz song, isn't it?
It might be.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I can never get
You're
the
so
Gorillaz.
diverse in your music.
I can never get the Gorillaz and the Killers exactly right in my head.
I took a cross country trip from here to Virginia. Shout out to Daniel Fisher, and I started playing some music in the car, and I was playing the Killers, and he's like, "Who is this? I love this."
Right.
You've never heard of the Killers? And I started playing Mr. Brightside. And I just started going right down the list, of their top songs. Never heard of it. Never heard their music.
So I had a birthday recently.
Happy birthday. I was there.
Age will not be divulged. But earlier in the week, my son said, "Hey, I've got your gift." And so you talk about legacies. So in a nondescript package, he hands me the gift. It was a 07 CD. I got into music because my dad would play 78s and boogie woogie, right? And so it got embedded in. When we were overseas, he had Meet the Beatles, and I can remember walking to elementary school, and he was playing it. So that stuff gets imprinted, and so it was just gratifying.
It never goes away.
It's gratifying that it's my place of comfort when I'm need to smooth the brain out. But it was gratifying that my son, is dad. That Death Cab song is I really like that Death Cab song, right? So it's nice that that he has his own interests, but there's something you've left as a legacy to your children. You'll have that experience. You'll have that wonderful experience shortly, right?
Yeah.
It won't come instantly, but
it's nerve-wracking to think that someone's watching you and mimicking you.
There are no right ways of doing things. There's just authentic ways of doing things. So embrace it, right?
Yeah.
You'll get a lot.
That's for the quote board right there, you guys.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta, you'll get all kinds of advice. Well, you should do this. You should do that. You should, You
just figure it out.
You and Katie together will figure out what's your authentic. And No doubt you'll be an incredible dad.
I think it's good for us to remember that, a lot of people raised a lot of kids, started a lot of businesses, fought and died over a lot of different things, and we're
Had
still here. We're
financial
all still here.
stress, had financial stress of like,
Yeah.
oh my God, how am I going to do this? Right? You know, you have that anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, so music. I love music. Right?
You're always talking about music.
Yeah. Well, I always come in here and I go, who is that? Right? And you've been around for a few decades like I have, and certain genres of music are created by new artists, right? So Beach House or Best Coast,
Yeah.
all harken back to the early 60s music, right? And so, yeah, there's some great music out there. And,
Do you find anything new
huh?
here? Do you find anything
Oh, I
new?
do. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
expose you to some stuff?
Yeah. No, yeah. What was it? Midnight. I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, no, I walk in and I go, oh, I like that. Right. And you get these.
We got some hipsters working here, they're always diving into some obscure stuff.
Well, I watch a show that will remain nameless, but it's like I was holding a Shazam up, or when you hear a song that's in a show and you go, "Oh yeah, I know what that is," right?
Yeah. I
So
went and saw oh man, now I'm gonna forget the name of the band, but I saw a band in Sacramento at Ace of Spades,
okay.
and I'd never heard of them. And Fits in the Tantrums.
Oh, okay, sure.
So never heard of them.
Yeah,
My
they're.
friends invited me to actually hear somebody else who was opening for them,
Mm-hmm.
and was so excited about this opener. So we went to hear the opener. Then we heard Fits in the Tantrums, and it's a pretty small venue,
Right.
compared to national venues. And then, a couple years later, their songs were on all these
Yeah.
commercials and all these different things, and they're playing at the
I,
big shows, and you're like, man, I remember just yesterday. It seems like they were so small.
so Friday afternoon at Coachella when they broadcast it, I can remember seeing. They're out of Australia. What kind of Empire of the? No, not Empire of the Sun. Um, Ah, I can remember seeing Gary Clark Jr. at 4:30 in the afternoon on the live stream. Um, Tame Impala,
Mm.
right? They're out of Australia, right? Empire of the Sun's also out of Australia. But you kind of go, okay, that that resonates with me.
It
I'm waiting
moves
for
you a little
grunge to
bit.
come back. I mean, I think grunge is coming back. I mean, with oh, what can I can picture his name. I just can't remember it. Steve, the Meat Bodies. There's just so
I'm
many.
not I'm not a grunge guy. No,
You're not a
not
Mookie
speaking my
Blaylock
language.
and Pearl Jam and
I do
Soundgarden.
like Pearl Jam. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's great music, but we probably should
Yeah.
talk about something else.
No.
This is good. No,
No,
I love it.
I
I
love
love it.
music.
I love
Well, my brother-in-law, Evan Z, shout out to Evan Z. Find him on Spotify. Comes in here and you guys get going talking about
it.
music,
Yeah,
and I think that you appreciate the artist as much as you do the art.
right. Yeah, no, I mean it's you think about all this great music that's out there, and you think about how hard the musicians have to do to keep it front and center.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Well,
went
just to
to
produce it and then to get it front and center is even another.
yeah. So we went to Harrison, my son. He wanted to see Portugal the Man, right?
Awesome.
Um, but the National were on that bill, so it's just
Yeah.
he became a National fan after that. Ocean Park, something I forget that. Then we went to see, and I love when they do this. So Third Eye Blind did the 20th or the 25th anniversary of their first album.
Yeah.
Played it from beginning to end, right? And there's nothing like live music. And please bring it back, Governor. Please, come on, please.
Yep.
That's how we
Yeah,
do
We're,
it.
we're all gonna live.
When I'm
Or
governor, no,
we're
I'm not.
not.
I'm never going to be governor. I love right here. I'm
Yeah.
committed to Roseville. I don't want to be board of supervisors. I don't want to be anybody else. But here,
You're right here.
talking to people like you and connecting them with their government. So
I love that.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's my jam.
My grandfather, when he moved to Del Webb Sun City
Uh-huh.
in the late 90s, just raved about Roseville. and he got to know people who were working in Roseville in the city. And Rex Clark became one of his friends, and
Wow.
Rex Clark
Rex
was on the
Clark?
planning commission,
Oh,
which you
man,
were
that
on,
guy's an
and
icon.
he comes in here and we chat, every so often. And when I was going through all of my stuff with building permits and not understanding that process and being frustrated with that process, he was really encouraging.
Mhm.
And so my grandpa used to always talk about how Roseville has amazing people working in it who are
Mhm.
making sure that the city is going in a direction where it's going to be beautiful, it's going to serve the people, and it's going to outlast, each one
Mhm.
of them. And that legacy that you guys are creating for our city is very diverse and is very inclusive and is very it's moving. It
Yep.
moves me to just think about how much you guys are doing for our
A lot
city.
of our employees live here, right? Not everybody, but a lot of them live here, and so it's their home. So
Yeah.
anyway,
If there's anything that you could say to the voters before we wrap it up, what would you like to say?
well, I just ask you for your vote, right? If you're watching this, reach out to me. My number's always everywhere. Not in that, not everywhere, but 916-365-5863 is the city number, and 916-952-1287. And I love, the one thing that I think we all need to do is, we got two of these and one of these. But this, listen, because from listening to each other, we can create something that is lasting, sustainable, and continues to benefit the whole city. So thanks very much for the
I love
opportunity.
that.
I love sitting down and
Yeah.
chatting with you.
You
So
heard it right here. 2 years to listen. Thank you for listening to the Proclamation podcast. And thank you, Bruce, for being on.
cheers.
Cheers. No touching.
No touching.